Most people think silence means one thing: shyness, awkwardness, maybe even weakness. But if you've ever been the quiet person in the room, you know that's not the truth. Because while everyone else is busy talking, interrupting, and trying to be heard, you're noticing things. The way someone's smile fades for half a second. The tension in someone's voice when they say, "I'm fine." The strange shift in energy when a certain person walks into the room. And sometimes you wonder, why do I see these things when nobody else seems to notice? Why does it feel like I'm watching the whole room, while everyone else is just inside the moment? If you've ever felt that way, there's a reason. Silent people often notice everything, and it's not an accident. It's the result of how silence changes the way you experience the world. Picture this. You're sitting with a group of people. Maybe it's a dinner table, maybe a classroom, maybe co-workers talking during a break. The conversation is loud. People are jumping over each other to tell stories. Someone is explaining something that happened to them. Another person interrupts halfway through. Someone laughs a little too loudly. And while all of this is happening, you're quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because your mind is busy absorbing everything around you. You notice the person who keeps checking their phone. You notice the friend who laughs at every joke, even when it isn't funny. You notice the two people who suddenly stop talking when someone else walks by. Most people don't catch these things, not because they're incapable, but because their attention is somewhere else. They're thinking about what they want to say next. They're preparing a response. They're waiting for their turn to speak. But when you're quiet, something different happens. Your mind becomes an observer. Instead of preparing words, your brain starts collecting signals, small signals, tiny details. And those details slowly form a bigger picture. Psychologically, silence creates space. When you're not focused on speaking, your brain has extra capacity to process the environment. You begin to notice tone, body language, micro expressions, the tiny changes in someone's face that last less than a second. And here's something interesting. Many quiet people aren't just silent. They're also highly sensitive to emotional shifts. Not in a weak way, but in an aware way. They feel when the mood of a room changes. They feel when someone's words don't match their emotions. They notice tension before anyone says anything out loud. And over time, this builds a strange kind of intuition. You start to sense things. You meet someone and immediately feel that something about them isn't genuine. You hear someone say they're happy, but something inside you says they're not. And sometimes you don't even know why you feel that way. You just do. This is one of the hidden strengths of quiet people. Listening becomes a superpower, not just hearing words, but hearing what people mean behind the words. Because here's the truth. Most people reveal more than they realize. Someone might say they're confident, but their shoulders are tight, their voice cracks slightly, their eyes keep searching the room. These small contradictions tell a story, and silent observers are the ones who catch it. There's also another reason quiet people notice so much. They process things more slowly, but more deeply. Instead of reacting immediately, they pause. They replay conversations in their mind. They analyze situations hours later, sometimes even days later. And yes, this can feel exhausting, but it also builds powerful pattern recognition. You start to notice how certain people behave. You notice who only talks to you when they need something. You notice who supports you when nobody is watching. You notice who changes their personality depending on the room. These patterns become clearer over time. And suddenly you realize something important. People reveal who they are constantly. Most just don't pay attention long enough to see it. There's also an ironic thing that happens around quiet people. Others talk more. Silence makes people uncomfortable. When someone doesn't fill every gap in conversation, others rush to fill it. They overshare. They ramble. They reveal thoughts they didn't plan to say out loud. And while they're talking, the quiet person is learning everything, sometimes without saying a single word. But noticing everything has a hidden cost, because when you see more, you also feel more. You notice fake kindness, forced smiles, unspoken sadness. You pick up on tension between people who pretend everything is fine. You see the loneliness in someone who jokes all the time. And sometimes it makes the world feel heavier than it looks from the outside. Many silent people carry emotions they never talk about, not because they want to hide them, but because they're used to observing, not being observed. They understand others deeply, yet they often feel misunderstood themselves. Maybe you've experienced this. You listen to everyone. You understand their struggles. You give thoughtful advice when they need it. But when it comes to your own feelings, it's harder to explain them, because your mind is always processing so much at once. Here's a moment to pause and think. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and realized something important hours later? Something subtle that nobody else seemed to notice. Maybe a tone in someone's voice. A strange pause before they answered. A look they gave someone across the room. That moment when the pieces suddenly connect, and you realize you understood the situation much more clearly than you thought. That's the quiet mind at work. Another thing worth reflecting on. Some of the most perceptive people in history were quiet observers. Writers, psychologists, artists. People who spent long periods watching human behavior. Not dominating conversations, just noticing. Because the world reveals its secrets to those who pay attention long enough. And silence creates the perfect space for that attention. But here's the twist most people never consider. Quiet people aren't silent because they have less to say. Often, they have too much to say. Too many thoughts, too many observations, too many layers to explain in a quick conversation. So they wait, they speak carefully, they choose their words. And when they finally do speak, people often listen, because their words carry something rare. Depth, not noise. So if you're someone who sits quietly in a room while others talk, don't assume it's weakness. You may simply be someone who experiences the world more carefully. Someone who notices patterns others rush past. Someone who hears what isn't being said. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one who understands everyone the most. Not because they talk louder, but because they watch, they listen, and they notice everything.